Hey everybody, welcome back to Rebootleggers. This is a comedy podcast where we reboot everything. I'm your host, Scott Owen.
I'm your other host, Frank Serra.
And we made a boo-boo, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
It is, as of this recording, Sunday, February 25th. This episode will go up on the 20th, 26th, 7th of February. And we somehow, we've gone through this entire month and haven't touched love.
Love bugs.
No love bugs were touched during the month of this podcast.
So we're going to have to make that up to you guys.
We need to make that up hard because we cannot justify our budget to anyone if we come back, end of Q2 and we're like,
we're the love movies.
Yeah, we can't be showing our third quarter earnings and being like, here's all the movies we did, and they'll be like, now I see that here in this month of February you didn't even touch love bugs, and
so we're gonna bring you not one, we're gonna bring you not two, we're gonna bring you 3+ romantic reboots in one of our patented speed boots.
Patented speed boots, but at a lower gear because you don't want to take love too fast. You want to take it slow. Unless you want to take it fast, and then you can. Then you can. Everybody takes love at their own speed. I personally prefer a good, middle of the road. I like a good slow in the left lane style love, So everybody's trying to go
slow in the you want to put the brakes on everyone around you.
Yeah.
Just in a general wide area net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want my love.
Kind of a denial.
I want my love to stop everyone else's love.
Yeah. Now let's put a pin in that because Love Stopper could be an interesting.
Love Stopper. Oh my gosh. Leave room for Jesus kind of person. All right. I put out a poll, kind of an open poll on Twitter asking what
one might call it a question.
Oh, that's a good, hang on, let me write that one down. What non-romance movie would our listeners like to see rebooted as a romance / rom-com? And we got some good suggestions. So let's take this first one. This is from Jay Taylor. He suggests The Martian.
All right.
This is a tough one because it's a man alone by himself on Mars.
Now, we have to, I think, set some ground rules.
Yes.
So, we could kind of take the easy way out, right? A man is in love with potatoes. But potatoes, they're inanimate, and so they can't consent to anything.
Right. So it has to be some sort of sentience, is what we're getting at, that has consented?
I think, yeah. Because he's alone.
Could he fall in love with the Mars rover?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have an idea? I have two ideas. One of them is the thing that I just said.
You have +2 of the ideas that I have, and so you can go.
So either he falls in love with the Mars rover, or have you seen The Martian, Frank?
I have.
Okay, so there's this scene where he goes and he uncovers the old Mars rover, and they set up the camera with the alphabet, and it points. Yeah. What if he instead of
completely ripped it off of Stranger Things, by the way?
Oh yeah, right. I mean, come on. What if we do a You've Got Mail style thing where he falls in love with the person on the other end, operating the robot on the other end? I love it.
It is a love across
a solar system.
It is a love across 80 million miles.
A love across an asteroid field, because there is an asteroid field between us and Mars.
And the asteroid field is trying to break them up.
We call it an asteroid belt, even.
We could call it that.
That is what it's called. Now, in real life, asteroid belt is much less dense than what Star Wars would lead us to believe. I say we go with the Star Wars version for sure, where the asteroids are really keeping things apart. And as you know,
where the Millennium Falcon can't quite always fit.
Yeah, and as you know, even though space is 3-dimensional, ships can only fly in a 2D plane as if it were...
there's no such thing as going around. It's too big.
You can't go over or under. You have to go through it because space is basically just the ocean.
So, and I think it's cute. So we can kind of revamp this, right? So they're all, Matt Damon and et al., are preparing for their Mars mission, and I think the person who would go on to be operating the machinery.
They don't get along
from NASA. I think Matt Damon like bumps into her and like knocks down the papers she's holding.
and
right?
she's like, ugh, freaking astronauts think they're so much more important than everyone else, and he's like,
I'm just a drone operator. I don't have to go to another. I don't get to go to another planet, but my job is important. And Matt Damon says he has to be mean but still likable, right? Which is, I think he can pull it off.
well,
But he says something like, I'm the man that's stepping on the planet, so excuse me.
So in a traditional rom-com, so he's the main character, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's actually the nice one, and the girl has to be the mean one then, or the operator,
Okay.
not
She
necessarily
says
a girl. Yeah.
like, watch where you're walking, planet jockey or whatever.
Space head,
Space head.
space brains, space pants,
Space pants is pretty good.
diaper boy because he's an astronaut.
Yes, diaper boy, because astronauts, they
They pee in the
take
suits,
care of their business.
like they know what's up.
yeah, this is NASA.
And so she's kind of mean to him, and he's like, man, can you believe that girl? And then, so then we get to have some fun shenanigans where, do you think, so
I think then the movie, like,
the next
the
half
rest
hour
of the movie
is the
happens
same.
pretty much as is
Right.
until Matt Damon gets left behind.
Yes, and then he's going to get the, he's going to find the robot, establish a communication link, and he won't know it's the drone operator for a while.
Yeah. So for anyone who hasn't been quite clued in, so Matt Damon is an astronaut, and him and his team travel to the planet Mars, and then there's like an emergency, like giant planet storm that happens.
Yeah, sandstorm, geostorm.
And Matt Damon accidentally gets left behind because they think that he got caught in the storm and died, but he didn't. It's just that his radio broke.
Because all his friends get raptured from Mars.
Yeah. So then all of his friends are in space Mars heaven, which is different. And then Matt Damon is alone on Mars because he's the Martian.
Yeah, and so he goes and finds one of the old NASA Mars rovers that isn't being used anymore, and he manages to get it working again. And he establishes rudimentary conversation with Home, where he sets up like a ring of signs around the robot's camera, because the robot can't move, but the camera can swivel. Each sign has a single letter on it, and so then he spells out words a la the Christmas lights in Stranger Things. So he won't realize that he is talking to the drone operator, and maybe when he finds out, he like stops replying for a little while because he's so mad.
You're mean.
Yeah, and then they start chatting like after hours and stuff.
Oh. And he says like, what's your favorite movie?
And she's like, Apollo 13.
And then he says like, well, that's really reassuring. And then he says like, tell me a story. And then the camera just starts swiveling as we like fade to black.
And then the movie's over?
Because she reads him Goodnight Moon.
And then the movie, so he doesn't get rescued? Does he get rescued?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
I think.
And
then there has to be like a tense part where like they both actually realize they love each other, right? So in the film, one of the really tense parts is that the like living like the like habitat like unit that he's been using.
Yeah, he catches a fire in there.
Yeah, like there's like a puncture in the atmosphere, and he's worried about like freezing to death, and so he has to like tear out like the battery components of like one of the other vehicles, and it's radioactive. So it warms him up, but he's also like getting cancer actively, and it's very tense about like he needs to like stop the radiation, but also not freeze to death.
Does that happen in the movie?
It's something like that.
I didn't remember the radiation, but I'm into it.
And so then he's like, if I don't make it back, I guess he's still moving in these letter plates around, right? And he says, that could be cute, where like it's like a little, like a time lapse where he like sets up the letters.
Yeah, and she's like set up a whole like, she's sleeping at the office, so she's got like soup in a sleeping bag.
Like
and
beepers and alerts going, like,
yeah.
Oh no, he answered. Because I think that one of the things they set up was the distance with Mars or whatever, is that it's like, every message takes like 30 minutes or whatever to go back and forth.
Is that right?
It's something like that because of the way the speed of light, and that's 33 million miles.
Yeah, but sometimes Mars is closer than the sun, and the sun takes 3 minutes. 3 minutes when Mars is at its closest, it takes 3 minutes. When it's at its farthest, I think it's like 9 or 10. Because I think at some points, okay, so yeah, sometimes it's up to 20 minutes. So they're on the far side for sure. He's on the far end of the orbit. This is not good podcast right now.
Yeah, welcome to Space Math, a podcast where we talk about space math.
Welcome to Neil deGrasse Tyson Minute, where we.
Let's just go back to the movie.
Okay.
So, and then he says, like, if I don't make it back, I'm glad that I got to know you, Darcy.
And he says, would you take me to dinner? They do have a dinner date via space drone for sure.
Yes, where she's like, all right, I went to McDonald's and I got a bunch of fries because then all he has to eat are potatoes. That was like the only thing left.
Oh, and he chops them up to look like fries, and
yeah. So then they both eat fries.
And he's like, were those fries grown in human poop? And she's like, nah. And he's like, cool, mine weren't either.
Well, he says, well, fun fact, they probably were. And then she gets grossed out, and then they both laugh.
And then they kiss at the end.
He comes back to Earth, and like there's like doctors and stuff, and he like pushes them all away, and then he kisses her.
And they're like, no, but for real, you need to get, because your bones are different now.
Yeah, you have a lot. You have multiple kinds of cancer from your radiation heater.
And
then they get him back down, and then I think we fast forward, and they're at their wedding, and they're getting married, and then they kiss, and the camera pans up, and you see Mars in the sky.
Oh, that's good. You see Mars. You see Mars clearly visible, like the moon during daytime.
Yeah, exactly. All right, boom. Next movie.
All right. Here's another suggestion from Dave Bortnowski, and this is Alien v Predator.
We have an obvious through line here, right? Which is that Alien versus Predator. There's a team of human scientists. The alien is attacking them, and the Predator is attacking them, and then the alien and the Predator fight each other. I'm pretty sure that's the base movie.
Yeah, it turns out Predators are good in the base movie. They team up with Predators. We have a really good
meet cute, right? So there's an alien who's hunting humans, and there's a Predator who's eating humans, and then they both go for the same human, right?
Well, okay.
And then,
like when you drop your book and you both put your hand. That's actually pretty good.
So then Predator's like, and then alien is like.
I think you got those mixed up. I think you got those sounds mixed up.
I do have them switched, I think.
Yeah, that's actually better than what I was going to say, where it's a Romeo and Juliet situation, because predators hunt aliens. But I actually, it is still Romeo Juliet, I suppose.
And I like the idea of I'm not sure what to call it, but like a spin on a classic rom-com, right? Where for the humans in the story, this is the scariest shit that's ever happened to them.
But we don't.
But for Alien and Predator, this is just kind of like a series of date nights.
Yeah. So it's from so what if we just took? It's just the same movie. It's Alien versus Predator from the perspective of aliens and predators, not the perspective of the humans. And so it's like the whole thing is like we cut in some other scenes, like some original filmed scenes. But then, we like while this was happening, they were eating spaghetti.
Exactly, dude. Oh, those gross mouths just sucking up spaghetti.
The mouth inside the tiny mouth comes out and stabs a meatball. And then, and of course it's perfect because the aliens and the predators hate each other. Then they come around and it's very.
There's a whole political component. I think this is this is that type of rom-com where like. Both people are on vacation and they have like a passionate 1 week thing, and then it's sad that it's ending. It's that kind of cycle because the alien and the predator needs to go lay all of its eggs on all the humans, and the alien needs to like be macho and like bring back a trophy from its hunt. And they're like, I'm glad that I knew you, but this can never be.
I think again you're getting the species confused, but that's fine. It works.
We should do something funny with the heat vision.
Oh, because
the predator has the heat vision, and as far as I know, the aliens, like the xenomorphs, don't have eyes, right?
Yeah, so maybe they're like they're cuddling on the couch, and then the predator notices the alien's zone starts to heat up.
Yes, dude. This is going to be R-rated, right?
Well, yeah, the original's R-rated. I think we keep this one R-rated.
The business area, the heat map changes.
Yeah, in the zone, and he's like,
and then the predator reaches out on the nightstand and he takes a scorpion and he looks at it in his heat vision and then he crushes it in his hand for no reason.
Just to
because that's just from the movie Predator. It just happens.
He just kills a scorpion because he's a dick.
Like, it's this, like, full 10-second scene that has no purpose.
Interesting. Okay, and then they just continue to hunt They decide to hunt humans as a team.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's kind of their bonding, yeah. Where we get a lot of Scooby-Doo scenes, right? Where, like, the Predator, like, shoots some missiles and the humans start running, but he's hurting them into the alien's big pit trap.
And then they turn around and, like, they run in place for a while as they try to change directions.
And then the alien gets all the eggs in there.
And then what I like is we can do a sequel. We could do a sequel where, you know, they meet Alien's parents or Predator's parents, either one.
Oh, and they don't approve of the union.
Yeah, we do like a meet the parents kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That could be good.
Where Predator's parents are like the free-loving, fun hippie parents,
we can tie
and
this
Alien's parents is just the alien queen who's just a total ice queen.
But so then humans show up to like carpet bomb the alien planet, but then Predator is like, I'm gonna get your family out alive. And it kind of flips the script a little bit.
Are we going to subtitle this movie at all, or are we going to take the bold, artistic, directional choice and do 0 subtitles and just communicate the entire thing through context clues? And then, because, you know, love is a universal language.
Yeah. What if it's Alien v Predator, but it's lowercase L-O, capital V, lowercase E? But it's the V is normal size font to the rest of the title.
Oh,
and
right.
The L-O and the L-O-E is like so tiny.
That's pretty good. So you've got lowercase A, capital L. Where's the O?
No. I think there's a Alien v Predator, but it's Alien Love Predator.
Oh, okay. So you go Alien and then tiny L-O.
Tiny L-O.
Giant V. Tiny E,
and then Predator in the same size font as everything else.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Boom.
Okay. You wanna take one? You wanna suggest one?
Yeah. So we actually, I'll take this one up. So we got a submission from my own brother Nick.
Oh, Nicholas.
We're gonna pull it into our romantic sphere.
The classic Stephen King clown horror movie, It.
Mm-hmm. So we have a scary clown, and this can be problematic because half the movie prominently features children, which we don't really want to.
Well, the new movie is entirely children, so maybe we're rebooting the book where half of it is adults.
It's adults.
We're strictly dealing with when they're adults.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how about this? Do you have something here?
I have nothing.
So, what are
the clown is one of the people that is in love, right?
Of course, absolutely. Now,
and that's why he's obsessed with the children. Well, the adults.
It's really hard to Google it. You have to Google Stephen King it. Now, who are the characters? Let's say Beverly she's the only girl in the original group. We're gonna have to change a lot of things. I was gonna say
maybe we want to just get some wider representation.
So you're saying we take one of the dudes?
I think it loves the boy.
That's fine. Okay, so, but I think we change it a bit. We definitely need to change it a bit because I don't want to.
There's some pitfalls.
And here's what I was thinking. We're gonna change it a good bit. Instead of the monster, Pennywise is his clown name. Instead of him being a terrible murder clown who murdered the children, and nobody knows like what he is or anything, everybody is aware that their town has this supernatural being that feeds on fear and specifically spooks children. But he doesn't kill anybody, we're going to say, because this is a family-friendly rom-com, and if he does do murders, I think it makes this very problematic.
That'll kind of muddy the waters.
So here's what I'm thinking. It's a bit of a tried and true formula where someone... Sweet Home Alabama, think. So Reese Witherspoon is in that movie, and she moves away, right? She moves away after high school, and she comes back, and everything is the same. And she encounters a boy she used to know who she didn't like, and now like it turns out he's sweet or something. But they were like not friendly at all in high school. So which boy do we choose here?
So I actually think that maybe. Now hold on here. Maybe it's all of the children. Maybe this is an entry in which it is not a strictly romantic love, but that the non-murdering clown wants to be a better parent to all of the children than their current parents.
So you want to make him
but
children
they're not
again?
children, they're adults. But he wants to heal their hearts.
Well,
and he does it now.
Now, see,
he loves all 4 of them, and he gets them to fall in love with each other through complex schemes and machinations.
I feel like if we... okay, so you lost me for a little bit there, because I was going to say, I feel like we owe it to our listeners to really do the rom-com. So I was going to say, basically, Pennywise is like this guy's childhood bully who he hated, and then he comes back, and it turns out Pennywise is actually kind of sweet and feels bad for it, and then they fall in love. But you're saying that now they all come back home, and Pennywise, to make up for his being a mean, scary man, decides to play matchmaker.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to keep it to one. I don't think he should be... I want to keep it to 1 kid. I don't want it to be him making 4 kids fall in love is weird, because it's like all of them would know it was him. I think it should be like 1 boy comes back to town, his childhood crush still lives there, and he's like, oh man, I'm still in love with her, and Pennywise is like, I'll help you.
It's like, I know how to do this. I can do this. I just got to do the opposite of everything I did before.
But he has such a hard time doing it, and so maybe he creates like spooky situations. You know, the tired stereotype of, you know, horror movies are a good date film because you'll snuggle up and jump into each other's arms.
But he does that in the movie.
He does that in the movie.
It's real.
He spooks the love interest so hard that they jump into the main character's arms.
He kind of leans into...
Yeah, but then we do get the middle of the plot, or like near the end, falling out where the love interest finds out that
it was you all along.
You've been working with Penny. You've been, you know, manufacturing all of this to like, was any of this real? And then we get the part where they break up for long enough to have the main character, you know, learn to love themselves and become a good person on their own without having to be in a relationship. Whole. Yeah, to finish their own development, and then they're ready to have the relationship with the love interest.
He go, I love the most important person that I didn't love, myself.
I love myself. That's what's important about this day.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's really the most important thing that we can stress. Should we move on?
Yeah, and then he has balloons that are like heart-shaped instead of normal balloons.
Yeah, but they are still red.
But they're still red.
They're still red balloons. Luft balloons. Okay, here's a suggestion from a good friend, Jeremy Herzer. He suggests First Blood. Now, this is, of course, the first Rambo movie, which I was surprised to learn is not called Rambo First Blood. It's just called First Blood. Written by Sylvester Stallone. Who knew?
Starring Sylvester Stallone. Everyone knew that one.
So, original story, you know, Vietnam War vet has to go back to... he goes back to Vietnam to save a bunch of people.
Yeah, he is himself a Vietnam veteran, and then he like comes home from the war, and then he's John Rambo, and then they say, John, your best friend died from cancer. And he was like, wow, that sucks a lot. And then he goes back to Vietnam to save a bunch of POWs. Wait, they got captured.
Does he? Or is that Rambo 2?
That's right. It's Rambo, according to Wikipedia, it's Rambo 1.
Okay, the plot
Called
is
First Blood.
So, hey, spoiler alert, I haven't seen Rambo's. Okay, so who's he gonna fall in love with? Who's the love interest here in this Rambo?
So we can go one of two ways. We can say that his love interest is in America, but when he has to go back to Vietnam, he's like, I gotta do this. Or his love interest is one of the soldiers that he's saving.
Well, so here's the thing. I know that Rambo is an action movie, but I think we need to stick really true to the rom-com romance formula where we can't just make it an action movie with a love interest, right? It's got to be...
No, because then it's just an action movie.
It's got to be a full-on romance... Like, what's the difference between a romance and a rom-com? Like, I know there is one. I just need, like, cognitively...
I think it's the percentage of comedy involved.
Got it. So... I feel like romance is basically, in this day and age, a straight-up romance is like, you know, just sex movie, like 50 Shades.
Yeah. Do we want to do that?
I want to keep it all to rom-com, to be honest. I love trying to work in those rom-com tropes,
I do love those.
Because so you've got mail, little bookstore is going to get bought out by a big evil chain bookstore, but then it turns out...
okay.
And she hates the big chain man because he's the man, but then it turns out they've been talking online and now they're in love. So I like that, like, we hate each other for dumb reasons, but now we love each other.
So how do we change this?
Or do we do... So he why does he go back?
He goes back because... Well, I mean, he goes back because he's the only one that can save them. Mm-hmm. And the government is like, we need you back, John.
Mm-hmm. Maybe... This is tough.
Does he fall in love with a war protester when he comes back from Vietnam?
Hey, okay.
Because that was a big thing.
Yeah, but we do it obviously so that, it's not... We don't want to get too political with this.
Yeah, she doesn't know that he is a veteran, and he doesn't know that she's a war protester. They just meet completely separately.
He's working as a greengrocer. He's opened a shop.
Yes, because he's retired now.
And she comes in and buys his organic goods every day.
Every single day. She cannot get enough squash.
And she is mid-20s, and he's late 30s.
Yeah.
Because that's
and then they get to talking, and then she's always talking about like traveling for her job, right?
Yeah, for her job.
But her job is like head writer at an anti-war newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Magazine.
Newspaper. It's called Anti-War Magazine. It's just the name of the magazine's Anti-War.
But it's a newspaper.
Now, are we saying this does take place in the 70s?
Yeah, big time.
Okay.
Yeah. Magazines are still relevant.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the government man, he comes and he says, John Rambo, we need you to save people in the war. Mm-hmm. And then he visits the government building, the war, the war building that they all go to. Mm-hmm. And then a tomato hits him in the head and he turns around and he was struck by a tomato by...
What's her face?
Chelsea.
Yeah.
And then there's like... And then, like, the rest of the government men, like, usher him inside.
Yeah. And then then she comes into his store again, but she's mad at him. She's like, you didn't tell me you were one of those...
You were...
War dogs.
You were a shooter, man.
You were
a gun haver.
A gun haver. And he's like, hey, you didn't tell me that you were...
You didn't tell me that I was selling squash to a communist.
I didn't know that I was selling... squash to the I didn't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
You had it in the beginning. You had it.
I didn't even know. But I thought he's like, hey, we can't. You didn't tell. I didn't know that you didn't like wars.
And then he says, like, I'm shipping off to Vietnam. Like, I'm going.
Yeah. Because she goes to protest.
Yeah. And then, like, he's getting on the bus, but she's holding a sign. But the sign says, come back safe because I love you.
Oh. And then he runs off the bus and they smooch.
Mm-hmm. And he says, I'm not going to go to war.
That checks out.
And that makes it a different movie, but I think it pans.
I think it does.
Because then in the sequel, he sneaks out of the house to go to war because he can't stay away.
Yeah. Now,
that's kind of a conflict.
Wow. So... Rambo 2 is called Rambo First Blood Part 2. That's so bad.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
It really should be Second Blood, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Rambo's... I think we got to incorporate the flashback angle because he does have some war flashbacks in the movie. So maybe maybe they go on a date, right? This is before that they realize that they're on opposite ends of the war favoring spectrum. And they go on a date and there's kids throwing snowballs at him and he goes full on flashback and we have a scene.
He takes cover behind a bunker.
And then he starts throwing snowballs really fast and we do it like that scene where he's got the machine gun. You know that everybody knows where he's got the machine gun in the jungle.
And he hurts the child. Like he does it too hard.
And it's like zoomed in on his face and you see his cheeks like as he does his traditional.
And he just can't handle it anymore.
His Rambo sneer.
Yeah, he kind of loses it.
And she's like, "What was that?" And he's like, "I can't. There are things in my past I can't."
The reason that I sell squash is because squash can't fight back.
Well, that makes it sound like he used to sell things that could fight back.
the reason I run
The reason I work with
a fruit
produce.
stand is because no one throws produce at you. And then later he gets a tomato thrown at him.
Oh, John.
And that's like a betrayal angle where he's like, I can't believe you threw a fruit at me.
You knew how I feel about food getting thrown at me.
Where she specifically did it like to hurt and then immediately regrets it.
She immediately regrets it. It is yeah, and then they become
And they get into it.
intimate. And right there in front of the bus.
Just God and everyone, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to I think that is actually all of our listener suggestions. Now, we really thank you all so much for those suggestions. We came prepared with a few of our own as well. Frank, here's the movie. There's a movie that I very much love that I would love to. I think is perfect for this formula, and I would love to see it. I'm talking, and I think this is good for us in many ways, but I'm talking Pacific Rim, giant robots, monsters, but
Okay.
I think.
Let's knock something out really quick, which is
I
that,
think we're going to say the same thing here.
as outlined in Pacific Rim, the drift
Yes.
is a state in which two souls combine as a perfect expression of love.
Yeah, I think that's in the rap. They use those specific words. Now, I want to say, longtime listeners will be familiar with the fact that it's no secret Frank and I love giant robots.
Cannot stay away from robots.
And we'll try to put them in just about everything. But I think in this one, we take them away. Because, the robots are there.
I kind of like...
But, it's not
I
about
like
the
the
robots.
idea of an inoperable robot with one pilot who's just trying to find the perfect drift mate. Because as we all know, because we've all seen Pacific Rim 1,000 times, if you're not compatible in the drift, you'll have a brain aneurysm and die.
Correct. Now, it is not required at all that you be romantically involved with your drift partner. And in fact, I'm pretty sure most of them are siblings or like parent-child relationships.
Yeah. But in this case, this man
He is going
needs
to find
the ultimate.
he's going to find love in the drift, Frank. So
Now, that's a great tagline. Pacific Rim : Love in the Drift.
love in the drift. Oh, that's very good. I like that a lot.
That's
Okay.
really good.
So we'll have pilot. We'll say.
So we've got Ace Manley.
Oh, I was
going
going
to
to make it a woman. We've been doing a lot of man-centric.
Perfect. Switch it. Ace Manley is one of the jerks that she doesn't drift with.
Or she's a woman named Ace Manley.
I would also take that. That's weird.
That's a little weird. We'll call her Deuce Girl Parts. No, that's worse. That's worse. You can't do that. Amy Chicksburg. No. How about just her name is Meg? Meg.
Yes. Meg Ryan.
I was gonna say Ryan also, but that's an actress.
That is an actress.
Did you?
Can we get her?
Should it just be Meg Ryan in the
Should it
drift?
just be Meg Ryan?
Meg Ryan is a veteran. Okay.
I think this would be a good role for her to get into.
Yeah, and all the rom-coms are about, young people. And she's not, she's not that old.
She's not old.
She's not an old person at all. She's just old for the rom-com demographic.
Now, and she is she's kind of an old hat at these rom-com turns where it's a nice comfortable presence for this uncomfortable, unfamiliar kind of scenario we're playing in with this post-apocalypse world.
Yeah, she's 56. She's doing fine. She was married to Dennis Quaid for 10 years. Wow, I didn't know that.
Man.
But, okay, so she is a veteran Jaeger pilot whose first husband died.
First husband was her co-drift member.
Correct.
And her only co-drift member?
Yeah, this is the only person she'd ever drifted with before.
And she hasn't piloted for 20 years since he died.
But the call is coming up, and
crazy new kaiju.
we're never showing the kaiju. We're never showing the robots, and
We do not have the money for that.
maybe at this point.
We will have the inside of the robot set that outside is not.
Yeah, but again, I don't want it to feel like this is a stressful. I need to find my drift partner so that I can fight the aliens. I want it to just be like, she finds her drift partner and they fall in love.
So there's no new kaiju.
Well, maybe maybe not. Maybe how does the drift only works if two people are plugged into the same drift machine, right?
Yes.
Okay. What if? Hear me out on this, Frank. Go ahead.
Okay, do yours, but I did just have an idea.
Hit me with your idea.
So there's some like the UN or something is what runs all the robots, right? I forget what it is in the movie.
Yeah,
but
some sort of.
So She is called up from Meg Ryan is called up from the reserves and assigned a drift partner because the computer that they use says that they're perfect drifters. But she doesn't like him very much.
She doesn't
in the
like
beginning.
him very much.
Yeah.
And
so they have to fight in the drift together, and they are compatible, but they resent it.
But again,
and they're like, you're a stranger to me.
We never show them fight in. We never show them in the fighting robot.
It's always it's going to missions or coming back from missions.
Yeah.
And like at restaurants.
Okay, I was going to suggest I like that a lot. Let's put a pin in that. What about in the future, drift technology is a form of internet dating?
Okay.
And it's like, how good can you control this tiny robot with your shared mind space?
Yeah, where it's just like an app called like Drift Mates.
Oh, but it's anonymous, and so she meets her love in the drift, but then doesn't get his name, and then has to go find him in the real world.
Yeah,
just like,
okay, I like this a lot.
Okay, do we get? I think we just get Tom Hanks again.
Oh man, I would love.
We get that
to
get that Tom Hanks Meg Ryan heat back.
Yeah, he's been in some interesting stuff, but he hasn't really been in any rom-coms for quite a bit.
Not since Meg Ryan. Not since he was in
Sleepless. He's been doing a lot of heavy-hitting material. Don't get me wrong.
Not since he was in Sleepless in Seattle, and then also You've Got Mail with Meg Ryan both times. Mm-hmm. So they've got on-screen chemistry.
This is like a 25-year reunion for them.
They know what they're doing. All right, so they meet in the drift.
Gosh.
And then it turns out they have opposite person. They gel perfectly in the drift, but then when they do somehow meet outside the drift, but they don't know.
And
they don't know who each other is. And outside the drift, they act different because people always act different, a little bit than your true self.
And they're like, what a jerk.
But then it turns out that they're so compatible in the drift that they, eventually one of them realizes it, and then they find a way to drift together again, and then it turns out.
Then at the end of the movie, they're like, "You've been chosen.
Yes,
get in this robot." But they don't. They just look at each other and smile. We don't see the robot.
Yeah, they just get married. Bam.
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, one more, probably. Maybe two, depending on how quick you do it. Which one you want to do? Hit me.
So I was thinking of bringing an interesting twist to the love story. We previously did touch on someone learning to love themselves, but I think we want to make it a lot more literal. And I want to talk about the movie Looper.
Okay. Yeah. That is always the most important lesson in every rom-com is they have to learn to love themselves before they can love before they can be loved.
Love other people.
Correct. Okay. Hit me. What do you got?
So Looper, right? You got your Bruce Willis and you got your JGL. Really hope they'll both sign on because I would love that.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
So obviously the biggest problem with... Let's just do it this way. So Bruce Willis comes back.
Sure does.
JGL to the past. And JGL is in the past. And he's a young man.
JGL being Joseph Gordon-Levitt, for those who are not super fans.
Being Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And I do want them to fall in love. There's one logical problem. Bruce Willis would know that it was himself.
Well, hey, let's back up. For our fans who haven't seen Looper, it's a story in which time travel takes place. There's these guys called Loopers who are hitmen for the mob. Eventually, the mob sends them back in time to be killed by themselves. And
so Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a man whose name I forget. Bruce Willis is that man, but about 20 or 30 years in the future.
Yeah, and he gets sent back in time. Bruce Willis
comes back to the past, and they talk to each other.
Yes, and JGL's supposed to kill him, but doesn't. You're saying they fall in love.
Mm-hmm. I want them to fall in love, and through falling in love, kind of learn to accept themselves, each other, themselves as me, as you kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is... they have to not know that they're each other until partway through the movie.
Yeah, so I think we give...
we conk Bruce Willis on the back of the head.
Yeah, he gets hit.
He doesn't remember what his younger self looks like.
Yeah, he doesn't remember anything about his past. And of course, his younger self doesn't know anything about his future because that's how time works.
Because that's how time works for us humans.
And so they don't know that they're each other. He just knows that he is a ruggedly handsome gray fox. Silverback gorilla.
Silver fox? Yeah, Silverback Gorilla is much better for Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
He's a hairy, all but the head.
Yeah.
So they meet, and I think they have a lot of, like My Dinner with Andre conversations about life. Mm-hmm. Where they, and I think Bruce Willis remembers kind of fuzzy details of his past, but not specifics. Where he says I had a hard time in 6th grade too, and it's weird that both of us accidentally pooped our pants once.
Do they know that he's from the future? At least?
I think not in the beginning.
But then they figure... Right. So they do, but then they still don't know he's him?
And then they find out he's him.
Yeah. Do we know the audience the entire time? Or does the audience just know he's from the future and then it turns out, oh my gosh, it's himself?
I think I like it if the audience ride is similar to their experience in the film.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So then they start, hanging out. So JGL, he finds him, not like, I don't know who I am. And then
and he just decides to help out a friend in need, man in need.
And then they start to connect on a very, very deep, intimate level because they are the same person, of course.
Yeah.
And there are times when they, they really don't like each other because it's like, oh, we're too similar. But it turns out like, man, there's just something about you. And then
they have a lot of similar, they share a lot of the same goals. They have the same opinions on a lot of things. Right, it's kind of a getting along, and I think they have some shared trauma as well, because they literally do have the same trauma.
Yes. So we're going with the standard trope of rom-com where it's like two people who are clearly in love but get separated by something else, rather than two people who start out hating each other.
Oh, I like this a lot. Okay, so, as Bruce Willis helps Joseph Gordon-Levitt through in his life, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is changing, and he's no longer going to grow up and become the sad Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis begins to fade away.
And they're like, oh my God, it's you, it's me.
It's me, you, is me, us. We
can't be together.
And then at the end, he says, like, Bruce Willis, like puts his hands on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's shoulders, and he says, like, I'm glad that you're going to become a better us. And then he finishes, and then he fades away.
We learned the most important love of all is loving yourself. I'm glad I got to learn to love
you, me,
ourself,
us, we.
Yeah. And then Joseph Gordon-Levitt becomes a more complete person and is able to have. And
we flash forward, and it's Bruce Willis with a wig with a full head of hair.
Yeah, and he's running a successful.
I think we can get Bruce Willis to agree to the wig.
Absolutely. And he's running a successful candy business with his beautiful family.
Yep. And he looks up in the sky and he says, Thanks, me.
I think that's good. I think this is enough to really make up for our lack of...
We've got the next 5 years of Valentine's Day is pretty much set.
Well, we basically we've got this whole month's version.
We're just going to shotgun them all out into the theaters February 2019.
Yeah, I think that
these 6 movies or however many we just did.
It was close. I was afraid that we were going to be screwed, but I think this will really cover our asses for the upcoming quarterly meeting.
Yeah. We got them stashed away.
We got them good to go. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Thank you to those of you who sent in suggestions. If you want to suggest something that you think we should reboot, you can find us on Twitter at Rebootleggers. If you like the show, please give us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out a ton. And if you know anybody who you think might like the show, please tell a friend. Word of mouth is basically the best way to spread this, and we would love to spread our reboot love around. So until next time, I'm Scott Owen.
I'm Frank Sarah.
And Frank, what's our password for next week?
Our password for next week is
like a predator.
Like a predator.